all to this Taxes in Spain webinar, a webinar that aims to offer the best tips on efficient tax planning. Okay, my name is Xavi Mayo. I'm head of international city promotion at Barcelona City Council. Our mission within the council is to promote the city of Barcelona in order to attract economic activity, understood this economic activity as jobs, quality jobs in the city of Barcelona. We want to put aside this stereotype of siesta and fiesta, and we want to highlight all the opportunities that Barcelona has to offer. We are aware that foreign investment is one of the assets for quality jobs, and these jobs can be offered both for locals, understood in a wide way. When we say locals, we both think about the local citizens, residents, Spanish citizens, and both the international community, the international residents that are in our city of Barcelona. Okay. On the other hand, we like to take care of our international business community. Okay, because first of all, because they are full citizens in our city, and the other one is because we are fully aware that they are first-hand prescriptors of the city of Barcelona. Let me explain a bit about this virtuous circle that is around the international talent. Talent wants to live well, and we think, I'm humble in this, but we think that you live well in Barcelona. And when we say we live well, we are thinking about locals in this wide open mind, in locals and foreign companies. If you have a rich local and foreign community, then you have more chances that companies feel attracted to land in your city because they will be able to find the talent they need. And they will unlock foreign investment for our city. We detected some years ago that this foreign talent strategy was basic for our international economic promotion strategy. That's why we have a 360 degrees strategy in which we have a web service, which is Barcelona International Welcome, which is a web service with all the transactions you may need to learn and know if you are landing in our city. We have a whole set of activities during the year, and you have entered our community website in order to enter into it. We offer all through the year different activities which are in the interest of this international community. And we have a highlight in the International Community Day, which is a presential event that takes place every autumn. You will be able to find links to these initiatives in the chat of this webinar. Okay. We are aware that when you are in a city and you are a foreign person, taxes maybe is one of the most important issues. And if you would like to land in our city, it's in your interest as well. That's the reason why we have asked AvaLanding, and I want to thank especially Raisa Venermon and Alejandro Puyo for collaborating with us in order to give you some insight about the taxes in Spain. Okay, and nothing else. Thank you very much for your attention. I would be here to listen to your questions as well. And if needed, I would love to answer them at the end of the webinar. Thank you very much. Raisa, Alejandro?
Yes, hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Raisa. I am one of the co-founders of AvaLanding. We at AvaLanding, what we do is we provide services for foreigners, foreign companies, and foreign investors who want to come to Barcelona, to Spain. And I'm a lawyer myself. But what I do actually in the firm is I act as a landing strategist. So when when a client has got a need of doing something in this wonderful city and in the country, what I do is to try to understand all the different aspects and needs: immigration, tax, corporate law, real estate, and then my job is to put together the best possible dream team of professionals to attend this international community. No matter whether I'm talking to a professional from Finland, from Helsinki, who wants to work remotely from the beaches of Barcelona, or whether it's a multinational that wants to establish here, there is always one person in all the teams, or at least somebody from his department, and that is Alejandro Puyo, the director of our tax and accountancy team, who is sitting right next to me on your screen. Alejandro, there is taxes involved in everything, right?
Absolutely. Instead of, except for thinking, when I speak with my students or even my clients, I make them the joke that everything has a tax impact: to born, to die, to pray. For example, in Finland, in your country of origin, there is a tax very linked to the church. To love, because finally you have bought some flowers, or you went to the restaurant and you paid VAT on the bill. So absolutely every action you can imagine has an impact on taxation.
All right, so today specifically we are going to look into the tax residency question and why should you care? Why is it that important? Then we'll have a look of the tax resident taxes that you have to pay, or whether you are not tax resident, and how you can minimize and optimize your taxation. Then some general outlines of the corporate taxation, and what happens and what you should be doing if you now realize that you missed some of the deadlines or didn't fulfill some of your obligations. We have a chat open, so please feel free to ask questions over there. I'll step back in a while and act as a secretary. I'll try to keep track on all the difficult questions that you are going to make to Alejandro, and then at the end we'll have a Q&A session where I'll summarize the questions and regroup them, and then Alejandro can answer us. There are some questions that may be too complex to respond right now. So what we wanted to offer all the participants of this webinar are free personal 15-minute sessions, so that you can talk to our tax team separately over the next few weeks. So at the end, when the Q&A session finishes, I'm going to upload a link where you can schedule your own meeting. I'll do it at the end because that way we make sure that that only those who couldn't receive the answers today can then talk to anybody. If you want to talk to Alejandro, you'll find us in AvaLanding any day, anytime. As a warm-up before we unleash the Alejandro and the hardcore tax stuff, I wanted to share with you something that I'm a lawyer but not tax specialist, so I want to share with you something that I've learned over the years, having worked next to let me share the screen just a second. Yeah, so I wanted to share what I have learned from Alejandro and from his team. You know what is the most common question? Well, the most common answer of any question that the clients ask Alejandro that I've heard. What does Alejandro always say, or what all the tax advisors normally say? That's of course, it depends. And that's quite annoying because it's a very simple question. Why can't you, Alejandro, and your likes give a simple answer to a simple question? So this is what I've learned of what it depends on. And then I leave the the plateau for you so that you can go through the technical tax questions. So yes, it all depends in the tax section and in Spain and as a foreigner in general on your risk profile, because when what comes to international taxation, the rules between the different countries may be contradictory. There are always gray areas. So there are some room always for tax planning. And it shouldn't be the tax planner's profile that decides that is the right advice, but yours. Then the geography matters, because the taxes for residents in the European Union, the Spanish taxes residents in the European Union, are different from the taxes if you are not resident in the European Union. Also, Spain has got 3 levels of taxations. First, the national level, the Spanish national level, then the autonomous community level, and then the municipal level. So whether you go to Barcelona or Madrid, the taxes are not the same. It depends where you come from and where exactly will you be landing. Obviously, also Spain has signed double taxation treaties with most of the countries. So there we can have some specific rules. That's why we need to know what other ties do you have in worldwide taxation. Then we do lots of business in the real estate and in real estate business, as in many other businesses, the right tax response depends on whether you do what you do for business or for pleasure. If you just buy a holiday home, if you do some small investments, there's nothing much to be planned. But then the more money you invest and the more complex is your, the more professionally you invest, the more room there is for planning. It also depends on your personal circumstances. If you are a student with no wealth, it may not be the most important thing to look into your inheritance planning. But if your situation is different, that might be the most important thing to look into. And that may be sometimes, well, it's important in the tax planning in certain cases more than in others. Also, if you only look the case of landing from, for example, in immigration perspective, sometimes the recommendation would be, for example, non-lucrative visa. But when you also look at it from the tax perspective, non-lucrative visa, for it to be renewed, requires for you to be tax resident, and that might not be the best way from the tax perspective. So we need to understand the whole picture always to see what is the right way to go. Alejandro, I leave the plateau for you to start talking about the tax residency after utmost importance. There's another blonde in the picture. I'm sure you'll share with us why is that?
Well, the first issue when we are speaking about taxes is the tax residency. Of course, if you became tax resident in Spain, you will have some taxes, but also continue to be tax resident in another country, you will also be taxed for some income obtained in Spain. Okay, so normally the first rule to be considered as tax resident in Spain is to stay more than 183 days during the calendar year, so from 1st January to 31st December. Okay, and after there is the second criteria, the second rule, which is a gray area because it's not sufficiently explained, is the center of vital interest. For example, where is your main source of income, but also where is your family? Okay, so this is not always easy. That's why we have used the photography of Shakira. Shakira, for a long time, she was saying she was not tax resident in Spain, despite that her family are here in Spain, okay, precisely in Barcelona. but the main source of income is not really in Spain, it's outside of Spain. Okay. What the tax inspection did is to check about the debit and credit card consumption every day, the Facebook, and all the big data the tax authorities in Spain have access to, which I assure you is enormous. And they found out that finally she has been in Spain for more than 183 days. So they used the first rule in order to say, well, you are tax resident. So what is really important is, especially for you outside the Spanish people, is to make a proper simulation in order, look, I would like to retire in Spain, or I would like in 2 years to go to Spain. And what we can do for the clients is a simulation of what would be your tax impact, and also offer you an adequate tax planning, okay? And in this case, we could take some decisions in order, for example, to sell your habitual home or not, in order to have an exemption in Spain or not, or in order to avoid taxation in Spain, okay? So if you don't do that, and once you arrive to Spain, you only remember about the tax impact, well, this would imply that you are already a bit more Spanish, because you are leaving things for the last moment. But what is really important is, if you do it with some months before, or even 1 year, we could really do a great job for you in order to reduce the tax impact. Okay. Once you are tax resident in Spain, you will have several taxes. The most important ones are these: the personal income tax, taxation when you buy a property, gift tax, inheritance tax, the Modelo 720, the tax form 720 that we will speak now in some moment, and the wealth tax. Here in Spain, you have 4 years for the statute of limitation. Okay, so in case, and it would not be the first time, some people say, oh, I've been here for 2 years and I haven't paid any of my taxes. Don't panic. We have regularized the situation, and normally it's better to regularize in order to avoid a sanction, an additional sanction by the tax authorities. With regards to personal income tax, the tax rates range between 19 and 45, depending on the area of Spain, could be even 47%. Okay, it's true that if you get less than 22,000 euros, normally you could be exempt of paying taxes, but this is something that we have to check case by case. Okay, this is more or less, just as an example, what would be the tax rate applicable, because it's proportional in order to the income obtained. So the idea is, if with 20,000 euros, the tax rate could be 19%, 50,000 euros, 32%, 1,000 euros, 47%. Okay, and this is for salaries, pension, income from immovable property. For example, you have a property and you rent it. These are going to be the tax rates, 1945. However, for dividends and I don't know if you are hearing me or not. Well, I continue, and I hope, okay, you hear me, sorry. Raisa, can I have the previous one? Just 1 second. Thank you. For capital income, dividends, etc., is between 19 and 26%. Okay, is a less or reduced tax rate that will be applicable. Important here, and that's why Raisa mentioned about the double tax treaties. Of course, if any of this income is obtained outside, in the US, in the UK, in France, Germany, whatever, and is already paying taxes in those countries, in Spain, we will have the possibility of deduct what you have already paid abroad. okay? Because finally, the same dividends are going to be paying taxes abroad and in Spain, but in Spain you will have a tax credit of what you have paid abroad, okay? So with regards the buy-in of a company, you will have two different taxes, VAT or transfer tax, okay? Depending where you buy the property, if it's new, it's going to be VAT, 10%. If it's second-hand, normally you will have what is called the transfer tax. This transfer tax, depending where you buy this, could vary between 6 and 11%, okay? It's true that it's quite expensive in comparison to other countries, but it's also true that once you have the property, you are only paying a local tax in every town hall that is not enormous, okay? It's what is called the EV, the council tax, okay? So when you have the property, if it's your habitual home, you're not paying any other tax except the EV, the council tax. If you are renting, yes, you are paying, again, with the general rates between 19 and 45, 47%. But, just a good news, because in taxes it's very rare to have good news, you have a tax allowance of the income obtained of 60%. So you would only be paying taxes on the 40% of income obtained on rent. And at the time of the sale, you will have, again, two taxes. The capital gain on the profit, transfer tax, transfer value against acquisition value, and you will pay between 19 and 26%, with some exemptions if it's your habitual home, okay? And it could be your habitual home in Spain and you go to another country, or you are coming to Spain and you are selling the property that it was your habitual home in France, Italy, Germany, whatever, and you came to Spain and you make a reinvestment in a new home here in Spain. In this case, even if the house you are selling, it was outside Spain, you could also have the possibility of an exemption on the gain. Okay? And also there is a municipal tax to be paid. This is the main tax, the main tax you will have. There is also something that we have to take into account, that is the gift tax, okay? And for any money, for example, if you are giving money to your children for buying a property in Spain, or between two brothers or whatever, you would have this gift tax. It's true that if we do it with a proper tax planning, we could really reduce the tax rate to be applied, okay? So for example, I'm giving you, in this case, an exact example in Catalonia. If we do not things correctly, you would be paying 7% for 10,000 euros, 17% for 2,100 euros, or 600,000 euros will be paying 24%, which is enormous. But if we do it correctly, through a notary, with an agreement duly prepared, with a proper tax planning, we could reduce that between 5 and 9%, okay? This is really important. Another tax that we will have is the inheritance tax, okay? Here is important because it's different in other countries. The taxpayer are the heirs. And we will have to check if the heirs are tax residents in Spain or not, and if the assets and money and other things that are involved in the inheritance are in Spain or not. Okay, so when the assets are in Spain or the heirs are in Spain, normally we will have a Spanish inheritance tax. Okay. That's why it's really important, not only for tax purposes, to prepare correctly a Spanish will with regards to the Spanish assets. Okay, this is really a recommendation, and I tell you, it's not of course, it will help from a tax perspective, but also from a legal perspective. And an additional tax obligation we have in Spain is the obligation to inform about assets that people here in Spain, tax residents in Spain, not necessarily Spanish people, about assets they have abroad. The origin of this was with a process opened by the Spanish tax authorities, a tax amnesty, okay, and after that they obliged the people to say, okay, now you have arranged your things in Spain and outside, now I want all the information about your assets abroad. It's three groups of assets: real estate assets, bank accounts, and financial products. We have to inform the tax authorities that you have these type of assets and rights abroad. That is only information, not paying, okay? But it's true that the failure or the incorrect fulfillment of these tax forms implies very severe penalties. These penalties are now discussed by the European Commission, the European Union Commission, but at this stage, in order to avoid the very big penalties, I'm speaking about thousands of euros, it would be preferable to do things correctly. Wealth tax. I know a lot of people, of course, it's an unfair tax, okay? Because it's a tax that what I have to do is to calculate what is your wealth at the end of the year, let's say year 2020, and during 2021, pay on the value of your wealth between 0.2 and 2. Well, now it's 3.5, 0.2 and 3.5%. Is absolutely unfair because you have already paid taxes on the money you have earned through salary, or even in an inheritance, or even if you win a lottery, you have to pay taxes. So what you do with this money kept in the bank or use it for buying a car, etc., should not be taxed again, but it's how it works. However, first of all, non-resident tax in Spain have an exempt amount on wealth tax of 700,000 euros. And tax resident in Spain have also a combination of two exempt amounts, or 800,000 euros exempt amount. Okay, so your first, if I have to value all your wealth, the first 800,000 will be exempt. Only the excess will pay between 0.2 and 2.5 or 3.5. I know normally it scares a lot, but I assure you that in 85% of the occasion of our clients, when we make the calculations, at the end of the day, is not enormous. Of course, when we do have a client that is billionaire, etc., yes, but in the 95% of the occasions, at the end of the day, it's not so problematic. What happens if you are non-tax resident? Okay, so you buy a house in Spain, you came for the holidays, you spend some months in Barcelona, you also make investment in a company, for example, but you remain as a non-tax resident in Spain because you remain more than 183 days in your country. You also have your family continue to be there, etc., and you're only staying for some months, but less than 183 days. You will have two taxes: the non-resident income tax, okay, that will imply that for any income obtained in Spain, you will be taxed between 19 and 24%. It will depend if you are from the European Union or not, if you have rent the house or not, or the house, for example, is used for your personal use, or you get a dividend because you bought shares of Banco Santander or La Caixa, and you get dividends being non-tax resident. The general rule is that you would be taxed between 19 and 24%. Okay. You will also be taxed under the wealth tax, even if you are not tax resident, but of course only on the assets you have located here in Spain. And again, remember, as a non-tax resident, you really have 700,000 euros exempt. Our recommendations, which are quite basic, but as an advance of a proper tax planning, would be, first of all, this 700,000 is a individual limit. So if, for example, you buy with your husband, you could buy a property in Barcelona of 1,400,000 euros, and you would be absolutely exempt of any wealth tax. Because if you buy sharing the ownership, 50% each of you, you would be absolutely without any liability on wealth tax. Another possibility is that when I have to make the calculation of your wealth, I also have to take into account the debts you have. If you, of course, if you buy a house of 1 million euros, but you use a mortgage of 800,000 euros, the value of this house is 200,000 because you do have a mortgage, you have a debt. Okay, so normally it's true that there is two ways to reduce the impact to the wealth tax. One of them is to share the property with your husband, with your wife, with your family, with your children, and also to use some debts in order to reduce the real value of this property. But remember that we have these 700,000, so it should not be, in general terms, so big deal. There is also a special regime. It's called the Beckham Law. Okay, if you remember about a football player that plays in Real Madrid, I think now 15 years ago. It was not established for him, but it coincided on time with his venue to the Real Madrid football team. This special tax regime is really positive when you came to Spain because of a labor agreement or because you are going to make an investment and you became the director of a company. The idea is that, okay, you are tax resident, you should be paying between 19 and 47%, but because we want you to come to Spain, and when I say we, it's the Spanish tax authorities. We do not want that taxes is a special burden for you. The idea is that the year you became tax resident and the following 5 years, you will be paying only 24%, and only 24% instead of 47, for example, in the worst case scenario, for the income obtained in Spain. So what you obtain outside will not be paying anything in Spain. Okay, so this is really an advantage. This special tax regime is something that we have to check, we have to prepare the tax authorities to accept it, but at least for now we have 100% success with all the clients we have done in the past. So if things are done correctly, it's really a very important advantage. Okay, few requirements. It's not allowed that you have been tax resident in Spain in the last 10 years. You are really coming to Spain because of a labor agreement or a relocation notice from your current employer company saying, well, from now you are going to work in Spain, or you became the director of a company, but in this case you should not have more than 24.9% of the company. The rest should be in the hands of another person and not from the family. And well, the idea is that we should make this process of requesting for this special tax regime in the following 6 months you came to Spain. That's why, again, it's really important to make a correct or proper tax planning. Because if you only tell me about, and sometimes occurs, that some potential clients call me about, I would like to apply for the Beckham regime, and he has been already in Spain for more than 8 months. It's not possible, okay? In any case, we have to check, because we will have to check if how much noise you have been done in Spain during these 8 months to see if it's possible or not, okay? I was speaking about the tax planning with regards to the Beckham regime, but in fact, is for any other thing also is really an advantage to have a correct tax planning, a simulation in case you want to have more in detail what will be your tax impact. Okay, so especially, for example, in case of a business, the normal question, or one of the first question is, I do need a company or not? And I normally prefer to think to answer, let's do things the simpler as possible. Maybe to have a company in minute one maybe is not really the answer. Okay, let's see how the business is going to work, and let's see what are the costs as a self-employee. In Spanish it's called autónomo, a contractor. Okay, where you have to register, you also have the obligation to have an accountancy, you also have to pay social security charges, etc. But maybe it's easier like that, or having a company. So this is something that we also recommend, to have a correct tax planning in order to check how is the best option for the way to initiate a business in Spain. We also have to check about what are going to be the money flows between shareholders and the company. If we are speaking about a company for a long-term investment and you do not expect to have distribution of dividends until year 5 or 6, in order to see how we found the company, through equity, through ordinary loans, through profit participating loans, through any other commercial or agreement that could be applied in this case. These are the things that I will, when Liza was saying it depends, is that I prefer to make some initial questions that maybe is 10 questions, but like that I will have enough information to be able to give you exactly the best tax planning and the best tax options in order to reduce taxation. Corporate taxes. In Spain, the general tax rate is 25%, but you have to take into account the 2 first years of profits. So the 2 first years of profits is not the 2 first years of activity. Maybe you begin the company first year, you do not have enough income. It's only from year 2 you have profits. From these 2 first years having profits, you have a reduced tax rate of 15%. Okay. And normally it's payable once a year, so it's payable in the month of July 2021. I will be paying the corporate income tax of year 2020. Every expense duly documented in the invoice, etc., and related to the business would be deductible. Okay. The accountancy is really important for this, in order to have everything duly registered, and like that, in case of a tax inspection, tax control, if they ask for the invoice received, the invoice issued, etc., etc., is something that we can answer very quick to the tax authorities. It's not very common to have a tax inspection. Okay, it's not something that we have every day, but sometimes it occurs. And we to have an accountancy really well prepared, it helps a lot. From VAT point of view, the value added tax, the general rate is 21%. Normally, especially with people that do not have VAT in their countries, they don't really understand that. What I would say is, if you are paying a lot of VAT, it's because in fact you are getting a lot of profits. Okay, it should not be a problem. And in fact, the VAT, in general terms, is not something. It's not a money that you have to search in your pocket. It's money that it came from your clients, and what you, for example, in an invoice of 100, the invoice with plus VAT will be 121. You will receive from your client 121. You know that 100 is your real profit, and 21 is something that you have to pay to the tax authorities. and you will also be allowed to deduct all the VAT related to your activity. So VAT sometimes is quite difficult to understand, but it should not be really an issue. It's not something that you have to pay in addition, okay? Especially on corporations. And well, this is not really a question of taxes, but more than for social security, because in Spain, these are two different administrative bodies, okay? They are not together like, for example, in the UK. And just to inform you that when we are thinking about salary for someone, you have to add 50% of cost of social security. It's really expensive in comparison to other countries, but this is how it works. Okay? Of course, these social security costs are deductible on corporate income tax. Okay, so in this case, yes, it's a cost because you have to take it from your pocket or from the pocket of the company. But at the same time, this will imply a less exposure on corporate income tax. Miss the deadline. Well, if you have missed the deadline, is because now you are more Spanish than where you are from. Okay, so well, it happens. Okay, and it's true tax authorities are not very keen on this. But what is really important is that if we regularize the situation before the tax authorities is claiming for this mistake or this payment out of the deadline, we avoid sanctions. We will have a surcharge for late payment, but if we do, we will only have this surcharge and not additional sanctions. Okay, so that's why regularization of past years normally is really an advantage. And that's why it's important to make the simulations and how we work, okay, in order to check, well, what is going to be the simulation, finally the amount to pay, what are going to be the impact, and how we could also, and this has happened for several clients, we have that, well, they haven't paid taxes for the last 4 years. Now we are regularizing that, but we have obtained from the tax authorities a calendar of payments, okay? Because you can imagine that paying 1 year, 4 years of taxes is terrible. So what we have obtained with the tax authorities is, okay, here is the debt, I want to regularize, please let me pay you in a reasonable calendar, okay? Tax authorities normally accept. I hope I have been enough clear. I really thank you for you being here listening about taxes. I will try to help you with all the questions through the calendar that Raisa has already mentioned. Remember, Google gives you a lot of information, but with regards taxes, what is really true is that in Spain, the rules of taxes change more or less every 6 months. I know it sounds crazy, but it's like that. They are not changing all the laws, but they are changing some percentage, some tax rates, etc., etc. So be careful with what you read, because maybe it's not enough on date. Okay, so that's why it's really important to use a tax lawyer in order to help you.
Okay, Alejandro, we have got loads and loads and loads of good questions. Here we go. We still have got 10 minutes, and after all these questions that haven't been answered, we'll try to do that later on, or you can schedule your free 15-minute appointment. Okay, so here we go. If we have a bank account, Freddy Monteiro asks, if we have a bank account in second country, do we have to submit a model 720 every year, or only on the first year of residency?
That's a very good question. Theoretically, you have to do it once and check. What you have to do is check the following year. You have to check if there is a a modification of more than 20,000. For example, if you declare this year a bank account with 60,000 euros, and next year continue to be 60,000 or 65 or 55, no problem. You don't need to declare again a 720 tax form. But if the difference is more than 20,000, so you have 85,000 euros, in this case, yes, you are obliged to do it. Or you have a property and the next year you continue to have the property. Next year you are not obliged to redo the 720. But if in the middle of the year you have sell it, in this case, yes, we should do the 720 tax.
And a related question from Liuda Survila. What is the process of informing these assets? How is the model? How do you get it done? The 720? Okay. What is the process?
For bank accounts, it's quite easy. What I would ask you is the IBAN number, where the bank account is in which country, and the address of the bank. And I would ask you about the balance of the bank account at December 31st or the end of October, November, and December. Okay, this is the information I will ask you for bank accounts. For real estate assets, is the address of the property in the country where it's located, and we should have the valuation. I do not need an official valuation, okay? But if you do have valuation for other means, through other taxes or whatever, I should have the valuation of the house at the end of the year. And with other financial products, of course, if we are speaking about shares that are in the stock market, the value at December 31st, if they are not the shares of a company, in this case it's more complex, the valuation, but well, in this case I would need some more information, or I would need to do more calculations. But it's more a question of time if you do have a lot of things than a complexity to have the exact information to be declared.
Okay, there are some people asking the link already. I'm sending it right now so that those who are limited in time can have it. In the meanwhile, we have still got time for a few questions. If we lived part-time of the year in Spain and part-time abroad, and we were tax residents in both countries, do we have to do a tax refund for both countries? Asks Linda Riedlinger.
Theoretically, you cannot be tax resident in two different countries. In this case, we will have to go to the double tax treaty, okay? And the double tax treaty between the two countries, if it exists, and normally Spain has a very long list of double tax treaties signed with different countries. And there is an article that says, well, when it seems that you have tax resident in both countries, let's see different rules. I'm going to speak now, for example, about the UK-Spain double tax treaty. What they say is, you will be tax resident where you have a house at your disposal. And the client says me, I do have in both countries. Okay, next rule. You will be tax resident where is your center of vital interest, where is your family, your main source of income. But also where you spend more time, the famous 183 days. The last criteria normally is where do you have your citizenship, where is your passport, okay? And in case, for example, in my case, that I have the Spanish and French passport, and imagine I could be tax resident in both countries. There is a last solution where it says, well, both tax authorities have to sit down and decide where this person is going to pay taxes. Theoretically, you should not be tax resident in the two countries.
Okay, two more. From Dominique. Dominique asks, if I buy an apartment in Barcelona, but I'm living in Germany and pay my taxes in Germany, and my only income in Spain is the rent from the apartment, which tax rate will be applied to Spanish taxes?
19%, 19,
Okay, and also I think it's good to compare this with if we were resident, because this case, this Dominic was living in Germany, but if he was living in the United States?
That's really a drama. And it's a drama because instead of 19%, they have to pay 24%. And on the gross amount, no deduction. The payment of interest, the payment of insurance, the payment of our fees, etc., would not be deductible. In those cases, if the expenses are really important, we normally recommend to play this game or to make this rental through a Spanish company. Okay, in this case, the Spanish company would be really paying less taxes than an individual outside the European Union that is not allowed to reduce any of the income obtained, and the tax rate is 24%. This is a drama,
Okay.
especially this year for UK people that last year they were paying 90% on the net, and due to Brexit, now they are paying 24% on the gross amount.
Okay, and the last one, how does the Spanish government check wealth outside of Spain?
Sorry, could you repeat?
Yes, how does the Spanish government check wealth outside of Spain?
That's a very good one. It's very difficult, but it's not impossible, okay? Every double tax treaty has a special clause by means of which there is an exchange information between tax authorities, okay? And it happens. We do have currently a client, a UK individual living here in Barcelona for a lot of years, and now we had a problem for him because the UK tax authorities are claiming through the Spanish tax authorities for a debt of 4 years ago in the UK. So the UK tax authorities have contacted. It's difficult that the Spanish tax authorities, because maybe they do not want, I mean, it's not just because you are French here in Spain that they have to contact the French tax authorities, because maybe you are French, but your your assets are in Belgium or in Luxembourg. So it's difficult, but it's not impossible. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for all the attendees. I hope this has been helpful for you. I'm sorry that we couldn't answer all the questions, but thank you for your interest and hope to see you again.
Thanks to you all.
Well, thank you very much, Raisa and Alejandro, for your knowledge. It's like the unsoundable wall of taxing. It's incredible. I was reading at the questions. There is so many questions that haven't been answered. Sorry about this. And thank you, AvaLanding, as well, for opening this small window just to answer some of them in a future webinar. In any case, well, just reminding you again that you you are open. You can be informed about our initiatives and our webinars, Barcelona City Council, through our community. The links are at the beginning of the chat, and in short, you will receive next week, I hope, a link with all the session. Thank you very much to all the attendees, and especially Alejandro and Raisa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. Have a nice evening, everyone, or morning, depending on where you are.
Yes, the same.
Bye then.